It started like any ordinary night. A few laughs, a bar full of friends, music in the background, and the buzz of a town not ready to sleep. But by sunrise, something had gone horribly wrong. A 19-year-old boy named Luke Durbin stepped off the face of the earth. No goodbye, no witnesses, no trace. He walked out of sight on a quiet CCTV camera in Suffolk, England. And then, nothing. Not a call, not a body, not a single confirmed lead in nearly 2 decades. His family has searched fields, drained rivers, stared into the eyes of drug dealers, traffickers, and ex-convicts, hoping for a flicker of recognition, anything. But the silence? It's been louder than any scream. How does a teenage boy, someone loved, known, with friends, a home, a family, vanish in one of the most surveilled countries on earth? And perhaps the more terrifying question, why? This isn't just a story of a disappearance. It's a descent into the shadows of the British underworld, a world of false identities, drug routes, broken lives, and secrets so tightly guarded they could bury 100 boys like Luke. Today, we don't just revisit a cold case, we open a wound. This is the story of Luke Durbin, and if you think you've heard it before, you haven't heard this version. Stay with me. Luke Durbin wasn't the kind of teenager people forget. He had that rare blend of kindness and edge, a quiet soul wrapped in mystery. He loved music, old school rock, guitars. He had plans. He talked about going to music college. His bedroom walls were covered in band posters, lyrics he scribbled on scraps of paper. He was a mama's boy in the best way, fiercely close to his mother Nikki and protective of his younger sister. Friends said he always had their backs. He wasn't wild, but he wasn't boring. He had dreams, opinions, flaws. On the evening of May 11th, 2006, Luke left his home in Hulsley, a sleepy Suffolk village with hedgerows and long open fields. He was heading for a night out in Ipswich with 2 close friends, Alex and Zach. That night, Luke didn't drive. He left his motorbike parked at home. No wallet, no phone, no keys, nothing but his ID and the clothes he wore. A black t-shirt with a distinctive logo, jeans and trainers. It was unusual, maybe careless, but he was 19. Carefree felt like a right. They caught a lift into town. The night started like so many others. Bars, banter, noise. A crowd of strangers melting into familiar faces. Around 2 a.m. The friends ended up at Zest, a local nightclub. That was the last place Luke would be seen by his friends. A disagreement. Maybe minor, maybe not. Accounts differ. Luke left the club alone. He didn't have his phone, no jacket, no way home. At 2:56 a.m., CCTV caught him outside Ipswich's bus station. He was walking, calm, just a boy looking for a way home. Maybe to catch a taxi, maybe waiting for the morning train. But no bus would come. The station was closed. 20 minutes later, at 3:40 a.m., he's seen again, walking along Dog's Head Street. His movements are aimless, or maybe purposeful in a way we don't understand. He stops briefly, turns his head, crosses the road, then, gone. That was the last confirmed sighting of Luke Durbin, ever. He didn't call his mother. He didn't show up to work the next day at Hughes' electrical store. He didn't come home. Luke was the kind of guy who wouldn't leave his mom worried, especially not overnight. Something had happened. Nikki waited. Hours passed. Then she started calling everyone. Friends, clubs, hospitals, police. The official missing persons report was filed that evening, May 12th. Police response, minimal. Standard protocol. They assumed Luke had wandered off, gotten drunk, stayed with a girl. But Nikki knew. A mother always knows. She knew something was wrong. The police didn't search. No helicopter, no dogs, no urgency. To them, he was just another teenager who'd had a late night and gone off grid. But this wasn't London. This wasn't some busy city with thousands of people disappearing into the chaos. This was Suffolk, quiet, rural, and now, deadly silent. In the days that followed, flyers went up. Local press ran the story, but the leads, dry. He hadn't taken money from his account. He hadn't used a phone. No social media updates. No sightings. Luke had vanished. Not just into thin air, but into a kind of darkness you don't come back from. But why? What happened between 3:40 a.m. and sunrise? That question would haunt his mother for years. And when the police finally took the case seriously, it would be too late. Evidence fades. But secrets rot in silence. And someone, somewhere, was keeping one. At first, Suffolk police treated Luke Durbin's disappearance like any other. A teenage boy out late, maybe drinking, maybe high, maybe asleep, somewhere unfamiliar. Missing persons. They come back, most of the time. But this wasn't most of the time. Within 24 hours, Luke's mum, Nikki, was sounding the alarm. She begged officers to take it seriously. Luke wasn't reckless. He wasn't depressed. He wasn't in any kind of trouble. Not that she knew of, but the police were slow. No forensics, no door-to-door searches, no widespread CCTV collection. The clock ticked. 24 hours became 48, then 72. And with every second that passed, the chances of finding Luke alive got smaller. It wasn't until 3 days later that police began collecting local CCTV, and that's when something chilling surfaced. Footage. 3:40 a.m. Luke walking along Dog's Head Street in Ipswich. He doesn't look panicked. He's walking like he knows where he's going, or trying to act like it. But what stood out most, just off frame, in another camera angle, a Volvo 440, old model, driving slowly. Police pulled the registration, fake plates, no trace. The car, like Luke, had vanished. To this day, that vehicle has never been found. That one image became a focal point. Had someone picked Luke up? Was he taken? Or had he gotten into the car, willingly? And if so, why? What could possibly make a teenager, alone at 4 in the morning, without a phone, wallet, or plan, climb into a car with strangers? Unless they weren't strangers. Suddenly, quiet whispers started to surface. There were rumors, and just rumors at the time, that Luke may have been involved with people he hadn't told his mother about. Not close friends, not his usual crowd, but a second circle, a darker one. Some said he may have owed someone money. Others mentioned drugs, but nothing solid, nothing that could hold weight. Luke's friends denied it all. They said he didn't deal, he didn't hang with gangsters. But the streets of Ipswich in 2006 weren't clean, not by a long shot. County lines operations were quietly expanding. Drug trafficking networks using young people as runners, often without them even realizing the danger. And Luke, for all his kindness, for all his intelligence, may have stepped too close to something that wouldn't let him walk away. One clue emerged. A witness said they saw Luke arguing with 2 men near a takeaway, but the identities of those men were never confirmed. The tip went cold. Another said they heard someone shouting Luke's name in a nearby alley that same morning. Nothing came of it. Ipswich was full of noise that week, but no answers. The police formed a theory, one they didn't say out loud until later, that Luke may have been involved with a local criminal group, that he may have been asked to transport something, drugs, maybe money, maybe worse, and that something had gone wrong. But where was the proof, and why would Luke take a risk like that? Nikki, his mother, rejected the idea at first. She knew her son. He wasn't perfect, but he wasn't reckless. He wasn't some street kid. He wasn't stupid, but desperation changes things. And slowly, Nikki began to ask herself questions she never thought she would. Was there a side to Luke's life she hadn't seen? Had he been in over his head? And if so, was that why he was gone? The pain of not knowing is a blade that never dulls. For years, every time the phone rang, Nikki hoped it would be him. Every knock on the door might be a break in the case. But each time, silence. Days became weeks. Weeks became years. And then in 2012, the first and only arrest was made. A man from the Ipswich area, whose name was never made public, arrested on suspicion of murder. For a brief moment, it felt like the nightmare might finally end. But then, no charges, insufficient evidence. The man walked free, and the case, cold again. But not forgotten, not by Nikki, not by Luke's friends, and not by a public that was beginning to see the patterns. Young people vanishing, county lines expanding, and authorities too slow to act. Luke wasn't just a missing person, he had become a warning, a symbol of a system that waits too long, until it's too late. To understand what may have happened to Luke Durbin, you need to understand something else first, something darker. A hidden world that doesn't show up on missing posters or police reports. A world that preys on the vulnerable, county lines. It's a term most people had never heard in 2006, but today it's known as one of the most dangerous criminal infrastructures in the UK. Gangs, often operating from cities like London, Liverpool, or Birmingham, exploit young people, kids to move drugs across counties. They're given train tickets, mobile phones, sometimes cars, and once you're in, you're trapped, because if you want to leave, you disappear. Luke Durbin's name would eventually be linked, not confirmed, but whispered, in connection to this world. Not as a dealer, not as a gang member, but maybe as someone who knew too much. Someone who got involved, even slightly, and saw something he shouldn't have. Police never publicly confirmed the theory, but in private briefings, Nikki says she was told her son may have been used to transport drugs, and there was something else. A second phone number linked to Luke was quietly investigated, one he'd never given to his mum. A burner phone, a secondary line used for communication. Investigators traced it to known gang associates in Ipswich. But by then, the data was gone. The trail, cold, and just when the Durbin family thought they'd reached the bottom of despair, another theory surfaced, even more chilling. That Luke hadn't been killed, that he had been taken, sold, trafficked. Suffolk was and still is a known route for illegal human trafficking, both inland and across the nearby coast. The area is close to major ports, Harwich, Felixstowe. In 2006, trafficking operations weren't tracked the way they are today. Young men, especially those who were isolated, without phones, money, or known to be off the grid, could be abducted and moved in hours. Luke's lack of ID, keys, phone, and wallet made it easy. No digital trail, no financial footprint, like he was prepared to disappear, or worse, selected. There's no hard evidence to support this theory, but some in the investigation believed it enough to pursue it. In 2010, police launched a series of interviews with anti-trafficking units and intelligence officers. They even brought in experts from Europol. Still, nothing surfaced. No sign of Luke in the UK, no foreign databases flagged him. But the idea remained, because what other explanation could justify the total absence of evidence? Luke didn't just disappear, he was erased. In 2014, nearly 8 years after his disappearance, a new witness came forward. A man who claimed he saw Luke near the port road that morning, disoriented, maybe running, maybe being followed. The sighting couldn't be confirmed, but it reignited the fire in Nikki's heart, and she took the fight public. That year she appeared on BBC's Crime Watch, sharing Luke's story with millions. She broke down live on air, holding his photo, her hands shaking. "He was my best friend," she whispered. "He didn't just vanish. Someone took him. Someone knows." The tip line rang non-stop for days, but still, nothing definitive. Luke's story was becoming a legend in Suffolk. Mothers told it to their children as a warning. Teens whispered about it in alleyways. But for Nikki, it was no story. It was her life. She quit her job. She began lobbying Parliament to improve missing persons laws. She spoke at conferences. She met with families of other missing young people. She built a campaign from scratch. Find Luke. But the more she fought, the more she realized the system wasn't built to find boys like Luke. unless they were rich, white-collar, public-facing. Luke's case slipped beneath the radar, and that made her louder. "I will never stop," she told a Sky News reporter in 2017. "I don't care if it takes 30 years, I will find out what happened to my son." And she meant it, because by now this wasn't just about Luke, it was about a system that failed, about silence that had to be broken, about boys who disappear, and the parents left screaming into the void. And as for Luke's friends, they drifted. Some left town, some stopped talking altogether. None of them were ever charged, but some never seemed quite the same. And Nikki still wonders, was there something they weren't saying? Did one of them know more than they let on? Because in every story, there's always someone hiding in plain sight. And in the story of Luke Durbin, that someone has remained quiet for 19 years. As the years passed, Luke Durbin's disappearance began to mutate. It changed shape, from urgent news story to whispered myth to faded photograph on a missing person wall. But not for his mother. For Nikki, time didn't pass. It froze. Every morning, she woke up wondering if today would be the day, the call, the knock, the break. And every night, she went to bed with the same silence. Luke was missing. Still, the problem with time is that it makes people forget. Witnesses get older, memories blur, files get buried, detectives move on. And in that vacuum, the worst thing possible starts to grow. Rumors, wild stories, online theories, chat room posts, anonymous tips. Some claimed Luke had run away, others said he'd been killed over a debt. One message board user swore they saw him in Brighton in 2009, living under a fake name. Another email, unsigned, no IP trace, told police to search a patch of land near a disused meatpacking plant. They did. Nothing. There was even a man who came forward in 2013, walked into a station, sat down, and confessed to killing Luke. He described the night in detail, said they fought, claimed Luke had said the wrong thing to the wrong person. Police listened, took notes. For a moment hope, but then, it all fell apart. The man had a long history of mental illness. He wasn't even in Ipswich the night Luke disappeared. Just another cruel twist. Just another emotional hit. And through it all, Nikki kept pushing. She filed FOI requests. She asked for internal police reports. What she found horrified her. Multiple CCTV opportunities were missed. Witnesses weren't interviewed until years later. One officer even admitted under questioning that critical phone records weren't examined for almost a full year. When Nikki asked why, the answer was always the same: resourcing. Limited manpower. Too many cases. But none of that made sense. This wasn't a shoplifter or a stolen bike. This was a 19-year-old boy who'd vanished off a city street. And no one, not one person, had seen or heard from him since. In 2015, nearly a decade later, a retired officer agreed to review the file unofficially. He didn't speak to the press. But according to Nikki, he told her this: there are only two reasons this case hasn't been solved. Either Luke never left that street alive, or someone in this town knows exactly what happened and has never said a word. And then he added something else. If you want answers, don't wait for the police. Go looking for them yourself. And so she did. Nikki began contacting retired gang members. People whispered about her in Ipswich, the mother who wouldn't let go. Some called her brave. Others said she was asking for trouble. But she didn't care. She knocked on doors, went to drug houses. She even posted online in dark web forums, asking for tips. Any information about LD06, a code name she created to protect Luke's identity from trolls. And while nothing concrete came back, the messages she received were chilling. One said, "You're looking in the wrong places. Check the docks. He was cargo." Another wrote simply, He saw something he shouldn't have. That's all you need to know. Were they real? Hoaxes? Just online vultures circling grief? There's no way to know. But each message was a razor blade across the skin. And Nikki kept reading them. Every single one. Because when your child is missing, there is no such thing as too far. In 2021, Suffolk police agreed to review the case again. New forensic technology had emerged. AI-enhanced video analysis. Old CCTV from that night was reprocessed. The footage of Luke on Dog's Head Street, clearer. His posture was different than they remembered. He wasn't just walking, he was looking over his shoulder, watching, like he knew he was being followed. That small detail reopened the theory that Luke hadn't just vanished, he'd been hunted. Someone was behind him that night, and that someone has stayed silent for almost 2 decades. But silence has a sound, and grief, if you listen long enough, starts to speak in its own language. For Nikki Durbin, that language is unrelenting. One question, echoing again and again. Where is Luke? It's been 19 years, 19 birthdays without a son, 19 Christmas mornings with one seat, always empty. For most people, 19 years is a lifetime. For Nikki Durbin, it's been a single stretched out day. One long breath, waiting, still waiting. In 2023, Suffolk police reopened their public appeal on the 17th anniversary of Luke's disappearance. A new detective inspector took over the case, promised transparency, promised action. We're not giving up, he said. But promises are easy. Luke is still missing, and someone still knows something. In 2024, a private investigator working with the family uncovered a new potential witness, someone referred to only as Witness X. They claimed to have seen Luke speaking with 2 men in a silver car not far from Portman Road, about an hour after his final CCTV appearance. The description of the car? A Volvo. Old model, no plates. But by the time police followed up, Witness X had vanished. A burner phone. A dead end. Another lead swallowed by time. In May 2025, Nikki marked the 19th anniversary with a vigil in Ipswich, a candlelit march. Locals came, friends, families of other missing people. The banner read, "Don't let them be forgotten," and under it, Luke's face, frozen in time, 19 forever. A mother stood before the crowd, her voice steadier than you'd expect. "We don't need closure," she said. "We need the truth. One name, one location, one moment of courage from someone who has spent 19 years pretending they didn't see what they saw." She didn't cry, not anymore. Grief had become her armor, and through it all the same question kept echoing, not just for her but for everyone who's followed this case. How can someone disappear, utterly, in a place like this? A town with cameras, a town with witnesses, a town where silence has lasted far, far too long. Luke Durbin is not just a case file. He's not just a grainy image on CCTV. He's not just another missing person poster washed by the rain. He is a brother, a son, a friend, and he deserves answers. So if you're listening to this wherever you are, here's what I'm asking. Do not let this be another story that fades. Share it, comment, tag someone from Suffolk, post the hashtag #find Luke Durbin. Someone knows. You might not realize it, but your one post, your one share, it could reach the right person. The one who saw Luke, the one who sat in the car, the one who's been silent for 19 years. Let this story sit with you tonight, not as content, not as entertainment, but as a real boy who walked into the night and never came home. Luke Durbin. If you know something, anything, contact Suffolk Police or Missing People UK. You can remain anonymous, but do not remain silent, because silence in this case is complicity, and Luke, he deserves more than silence. If you've made it this far, you now carry part of this story with you. You've felt the weight. You've walked the night Luke walked. You've heard the silence that his family has endured for nearly 2 decades. Now I'm asking you to do just one thing. Don't let this story stay hidden. If this episode moved you, even a little, please like this video. It helps more people discover Luke's story. Comment below. Share your thoughts, your theories, or simply send strength to Nikki and the families still searching. Subscribe to this channel for more real stories, not just to be entertained, but to help shine a light on the forgotten. Share this video on social media. Use the hashtag #FindLukeDurbin. It only takes one share to reach the right person. Someone knows, and maybe that someone is watching right now. Thank you for giving Luke your time. Thank you for giving Nikki your heart. We tell these stories not to scare you, but to remind you, the world is full of answers. We just need the courage to ask the right questions. I'm your narrator, Name, and this was the story of Luke Durbin. Stay safe, stay aware, and until the next story, take care of each other.